Hello all, James here. So, yesterday a lot of us read that Bill Goldberg walked out of a fan convention signing over the weekend. So, cue condemnation and whatnot because Bill hasn't got the greatest press recently, what with complaining about his WWE retirement match and Oscar breaking his win streak, etc. Now, while Bret Hart might be amused at Bill Goldberg's recent press, I guess, that doesn't change the fact that he actually has a great reputation with many vendors and convention types and is always wonderful to fans. Now, we're not only going to get to the bottom of this story right here, but I actually did some honest-to-goodness, half-baked journalism by actually calling up and asking some people, and hopefully I get to provide in this video to you a bit more context of the situation so you can all better understand what goes on at these conventions and the sort of back and forth, I guess, the negotiations of how they sort of get pulled off. Anyway, firstly, no. Goldberg was not in front of a line of fans when his egg timer went off and then he just jumped up and went, F you all, I'm done, before storming off, to headbutt some vending machines and eat corn the long way and then climb into his Dodge Charger and stall it. Now, with fans, he is very gracious with his time, so I understand. Once again, has a great reputation in the field, so immediately I was kind of dubious of the claims that we will get into a minute from now. But now, the supposed signing that Goldberg refused to do. Now, refuse is its own funny word because there's a refusal was ever agreed kind of thing. Once again, we'll get to that in a minute, but he didn't refuse to sign fans in front of him. Apparently, it was a private signing. Now, what is a private signing? A private signing is like a backroom affair away from the public gaze where there are tables of merchandise that a vendor provides and the star in question then signs. So, you just do loads really, really quickly. The vendor then sells said merchandise, hopefully with proof of authentication, either in person or, through the mail or whatever it is. It's theirs to do what they want. They pay them a lump sum, then they sell it on. Sometimes these are pre-orders that customers have already paid for as well. That also needs to be said. Now, that is what Goldberg supposedly refused to get involved with this past Saturday. But let's look at the accusation itself. Once again, I think it's important to mention, this is from K&S WrestleFest, that this post has been taken down since. So anyway, here's what it says. Unfortunately, Goldberg private in capital letters signing did not happen. We had our items laid out ready to sign as Goldberg was doing another private for another vendor. After he was done, he got up and said he was done. He walked out, passed our stuff and left. We were all super disappointed and frustrated. My apologies to all. Okay, some pretty heavy accusations there, if true. And that makes Goldberg, once again, if true, seem like a real gold turd with a bad attitude. But here's the thing. I was going to do a video on this yesterday, but something told me that there was something more going on with this story than just, this social media post. And also, it was a Sunday, and I do occasionally need a day off from this. So anyway, among what was not explained in that fairly brief, and once again, I can just show you again, that fairly brief social media post were a couple of important details, like had Bill and this K&S WrestleFest actually had a solid agreement in place, for example, or had they paid Bill a deposit, or even a verbal agreement, anything like that. That's not mentioned in the social media. Well, according to Big Event EXS or XS, however you pronounce it, promoter Tom Unger, who actually held the signing, told off Ken of K&S WrestleFest that he wasn't actually guaranteed anything. So here is something from another social media post from Tom Unger, the promoter, the guy who actually held it. A fan says, "You're a great vendor. Sounds like Goldberg is a jackass. Maybe the rumors were true." And whoever started this just downvoted these replies. No, he wasn't signed. Goldberg wasn't signed. He signed for the fans for 5 hours straight. Ken of K&S WrestleFest wasn't guaranteed anything. I told him if we had time, we would get your items done. He shouldn't be posting this all over like the victim. This was my deal and my customers come first. Shouldn't take mail order from all you not knowing if it was going to get done. Then I guess the same person right back, why couldn't he spend another hour or two to do the private signings? He's not really a celebrity anymore. Let's be serious. Now, I'm going to address that one in a second, because that wasn't what he was contracted for. This isn't that complicated to understand. Well, I'm glad he took that derisory tone with that absolutely total cretin who wrote it. He's not even a celebrity. Of course he's a celebrity. He's a famous celebrity is Bill Goldberg. Just because he retired a few months ago doesn't mean you hand your celebrity card in and say, right, well, no one will ever recognise me again kind of thing. So once again, that sort of goes to the entitlement of a lot of fans out there who really need to get that out of their head. And once again, I'm going to explain why. But with that post, all of this kind of sounds like a storm in a teacup at this point. Aside from, actually, the accusation that K&S WrestleFest may have been accepting pre-orders without a guarantee that Goldberg was actually going to sign these items. Now, I wouldn't be surprised either way, but I'll keep my eye open for a resolution, and if there is one, I will report back to you with another little video of mine. But, in fact, if you're one of those who bought a Goldberg signed pre-order item through K&S WrestleFest, let me know the process of getting a refund if you needed a refund or if they put items on sale or anything else, because I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, now you might be thinking, well, Goldberg makes so much for these signings. Why didn't he just stay an extra hour or two and sign the rest of the stuff? Because, he could have been paid even more on top. But there's two reasons for this attitude, and I laud Bill for this. This is not me taking against Bill, it's me taking up for Bill here. Now, number one, Bill Goldberg was booked for a certain amount of time, and he likely had to rush off and grab a flight back home. Easy to understand. Number two, a lot of promoters try to take advantage of the guys. Shocking, I know. But in pro wrestling, somebody might try to screw somebody else over. I mean, I'm sure your hats have flown off your head and, stuck in the air conditioning units as I say that. But yes, it does happen, and it does happen often. Now, I am not saying whatsoever that either of the promoters I've mentioned here are, fall into that category whatsoever. I don't know those promoters at all, and that is not an accusation levelled at them whatsoever. But I do know good promoters out there who tell me what bad promoters do to screw over or take advantage of wrestlers or performers in totally unacceptable ways. And here's the most common couple of methods. Once again, I stress, this isn't anything to do with the two promoters I've mentioned just before. This is general stuff of why someone like a Bill Goldberg would be so protective over their brand, essentially. Now, a crappy promoter will prepay wrestler X, for example, for so many hours of work. Let's say 3 hours for a signing. And then at the end of the 3 hours, there's still people in line. A lot of promoters will do the following. Might lean on wrestler X's good nature or not wanting to look bad in front of the fans by getting up and leaving or having an argument while there are still people in line. It's only human nature, of course. Said promoter then gets, let's say if they basically con the wrestler into doing more work for them for free, they get another hour or two's worth of work out of Wrestler X for free, and that's way beyond the agreed time, beyond the contracted amount. That is one of the ways that promoters kind of strong-arm sleaze their way into getting extra work and get extra money for no more work on their part. Now, some particularly savvy wrestlers actually turn the tables and do the opposite. They will, and I know who does this, and I've been told not to say who, drag out every single interaction with every fan. So let's say, this is 3 hours again, as the example. Let's say that there are so many people left in line after this 3 hours because instead of, 30 seconds or a minute to every person, they're giving 2 to 3 minutes for every person, and there's tons of people left in line. They will then go to the promoter and say, hey, look, I've done my time. I've done my contracted amount here. And there are so many people there. How about we renegotiate for another hour or two's worth of work, and then I'll get more signatures and we'll all make a bit more money kind of thing. Or we'll make money and you might make a tiny bit off the end, which is absolutely fine because, to be honest, I'm more pro-worker than pro-promoter, I guess, in that sense. But once again, it's a kind of thing that can work both ways, so watch out for it. But here's the one that really irks me. Said promoter, for example, and I know people who this has happened to personally, will contract wrestler X to sign, and this is a very general example once again, 2,000 8x10s, for example, and they'll come up with a set price, not like a price per item, but a set price for all this work and an agreement and everything. So let's say it's a mail order thing. They'll send over a box full of 8x10s. The promoter knows damn well that it's quite unlikely that wrestler X is unlikely to actually count the number of 8x10s in the box that was sent them or the pile that's presented in front of them kind of thing. So the promoter, let's say, sends 3,500 8x10s and just hopes that wrestler X signs them all. And trust me, that happens a lot as well. Once again, a lot of strong-arming, a lot of playing on people's emotions. Oh, what if you just do this? Well, you're here now. You should, it's no skin off your nose if you just work extra half hour, sign this extra 100, something like that. It is not benefiting the wrestlers, it's benefiting the promoters only. And unfortunately, even in this day and age, too many people fall for it. So there are other ways that promoters are generally scummy in this area, but it's always... it's always agreeing to something and piling on the commitments once again, or trying to knock guys down on the price. There's a million different ways, but it's just too exhausting to, dedicate this entire video to that, all those examples. But, maybe in the future I might well do that. But so why is Goldberg not the bad guy here? Well, if Tom Unger, he's the second promoter, he's the guy who actually hosted the signing, is to be believed, it's because Bill won't let himself get taken advantage of. And once again, he commands a very high price for a day's work, and with that high price comes high expectations. Just because he commands a high price doesn't mean he should do extra work that he's not contracted for. Now, let's say that Goldberg earns $45,000, $50,000 per session, or that was 5 hours or whatever. I picked these numbers not because it's random out the air. It's basically what I've been told, what he charges per day for a signing of this kind of thing, basically. So he'll be contracted to sign a certain amount of items, maybe. That's called a piece count. Or he might be contracted to sign for a certain number of fans. Basically the same thing. You sign a certain amount of fans, photo, signature combo, or certain amount of merchandise that you sign, whatever it might be. Or, once again, you're there for a certain amount of time, a certain amount of hours. Quite possibly all three. And it'll be tightly controlled by Goldberg's representatives. That's what they're there for, to protect him from being taken advantage of. So, not only will Goldberg's earnings and the amount of work he does be tightly controlled, but so will the amount of money the promoter is allowed to make off of Goldberg's appearance. So, if Goldberg commands $50,000 a day, let's round it up for fun, there will be an agreement in place that the promoter can really only earn, and this is a number I'm plucking out the air, maybe $15,000 on top after they've paid, and we'll use Goldberg for the example here, Goldberg's $50,000 fee plus hotel, flight, all that travel, food expenses, all that kind of thing. And they can basically only make a certain amount above because they've already agreed, an item signing piece count or an amount of hours or amount of fans, whatever it is. So that's why Goldberg's value will be so high, because once again, he'll get punters through the door, and also he'll know what every single item will be valued at and will be worth, especially if it's like a private signing afterwards. So that's why he's worth so much, and that's why they tightly control how much the promoter can make as well. Now, once again, sorry, one sec. Yeah, if there's more business than was, let's say, originally foreseen, so let's say, there's loads more fans that came through the door than they were expecting, and this does happen as well. The right thing to do at that point, if it's a good promoter and a good performer, the star, they will reach an additional agreement before the time is up, and hopefully all parties can be happy, and then they will proceed beyond the sort of allotted contracted time or piece count or whatever it might be. Now, what Goldberg or stars of his repute with the right management will not do or will not allow is, let's say Goldberg agreed to 300 pictures / signature combos, which are $200 a pop, right? Then out of the goodness of his heart, Goldberg then does an extra 50 combos just so the promoter can pocket an extra 10 grand. No, that's not how it works. It's not going to happen. So basically, let's say if the agreement was, well, I'll do an extra 50 and I'll keep 75%, you can have the other 25%. Everyone happy? Great, good, break. So to sort of wrap up this thought, really, if KNS WrestleFest truly didn't have an agreement in place or was selling pre-orders in the hope that they could snag Goldberg after his in-person signings and another private signing for I believe Tom Unger, the actual promoter, the main promoter, I guess that's on them if that's the case. But also, if the story that Tom Unger says is true, but the one person I'm not blaming for in all of this mess, and it's not really that big of a mess, really, not on Bill Goldberg's side, is Bill Goldberg in this. And once again, the promoters, I asked, all said to a man that Bill Goldberg is an absolute dream to work with in these situations. Sorry, Brett. So that's my video. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one.